We are in a beautiful location, even though you didn't know it was this beautiful. So I hope you're enjoying the sun, the drinks, and the company as well. Anyway, who's in this event? Who's it was the first time that is here in one of the ProductTank events? Raise your hand. Okay, that's nice. Well, welcome. I'm Serena. I'm one of the organizers. I'm currently a product manager at Trainline. And yeah, together with my other fellow organizers, we do organize these events, and it's been great. So let me tell you a little bit about ProductTank as well. I don't know if you saw that on LinkedIn or Meetup, but yeah, we are like a bunch of volunteers in London and other parts of the world as well, organizing events for product people. And tonight, we are going to be having our talks from our two speakers, Tom and Roman, who I don't know where he is. He's there. Yeah, hello. And then we're going to have a session, a Q&A session. We're going to share the Slido as well with you, where you can post your questions. And in between the talks and the Q&A, if you're going to have time, we're going to have a little break as well, so you can have more pizza, more drinks, and enjoy like the outside as well. And then, yeah, we're going to wrap up and go for some, and we can do some network. So if you haven't been, if you've been to one of these events, you saw these slides a million times, so I'm sorry. But if you want to get involved with ProductTank, if you want to write for Mind the Product, which is the global community, or talk to one of our talks as well, like scan the link as well, or like talk to one of us and we can help you out and we can sort you out. Also, we have a LinkedIn page you can follow, where you can find the events. I can see someone nodding as well, which is great. We are trying to increase our followers as well, so please come and follow us. But no, joking. Yeah, we do post our events over there, and then the recordings as well. Like, I get a lot of questions, like, oh, can we see the recording again? Yes, you can. You're going to find, after the event, the link in here on the LinkedIn page. So as mentioned, we do have a Q&A session, and we're going to be using Slido. So please feel free to scan the QR code or to join through the app, join the Slido questions through the code here as well. That's a really good song. We are going to be showing this one again, so if you didn't catch it now, if you're going to lose a page, no worries, you're going to find it again. So we're going to have two speakers today. Very exciting topic as well. We're going to be talking about Agile. I remember when Made by Many came up with the topic, like one of the organizers as well, they said, "Ooh, Agile, like, we need to ensure that it's not in the title, otherwise no one is going to come." But I think it's going to be a really interesting topic. Like, I heard like the talks as well, so yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. And we got Tom and Roman, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves as well. But first, oh, sorry, that's not my slide. It's going to be team. I want to say thank you to our sponsor. This is already started. I'm sorry. Hold on. Yes, thank you so much for our sponsor for welcoming this really pretty like location and for offering like the drinks and the pizzas. And yeah, I just want to invite here like team to say a few words from Made by Many. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, sorry about that. We switched the slides round at the last minute just to fool you. So yes, welcome everyone. Welcome to De-Spec a Wharf. Welcome, and welcome to Made by Many. And the first thing I've got to say, unfortunately, is very boring. The toilets are over there, and the fire exits are at the back of the building, just round the corner in the kitchen and that door. So if there's a fire, use one of the fire exits and leave. So that's that. But quick intro. When we launched Made by Many in 2007, I think we were one of the first, if not the first, digital product studios anywhere. And so I'm just saying that really to say product is really in our blood. I don't think digital product as a term actually existed at that stage, but whatever we were doing, it was definitely digital product. And from the get-go, our mission was to kind of smash Agile software methodologies into design and strategy and try and make that work. And it was really to try and put startup superpowers within reach of big enterprise scale businesses who tend to be a bit shit at that sort of thing, And in the intervening 18 years, we've launched well over 120 breakthrough products for more than 100 enterprise-scale businesses all around the world. But that product mindset and the emphasis on making is still absolutely at the core of everything we do. And that's for the very simple reason that we, as I'm sure you recognize as well in what you do every day, making drives a bias for action. Making cuts through the bureaucratic mass index and all the reasons that companies find it really hard to do things like nothing else. And I think that kind of approach has never been more urgent, because the AI transformed world is kind of already here. And if you think about it, McKinsey's Horizon 3 used to be like 7 to 10 years away, and today it could be tomorrow. So there isn't really time to waste on that kind of strategy to action gap that, you know, is very boring. And it's never been easier to make stuff. It's never been easier to make prototypes. It's never been easier, arguably, to make everything that we are used to making. So good times for product people, I think. I think there's a lot of amazing new products that are going to be built, that need to be built over the next few years. And with that rousing thought, I shall hand over to my partner, Tom, who basically leads product here at Made by Many. And please come and have a chat with me later on if you want to know anything more about what we do. Tom.
You can clap. You can clap. How's the kind of microphone length? Is that okay? Good. Can you hear me at the back? Great. Firstly, thank you everyone for choosing us over the pub. I'm sure it was quite close. Yeah, so, and also welcome to the Wharf. It's been our home for 15 years. We've got a whole bunch of events that we've run over the summer. So have a look at our social accounts, and please do come. Everyone's welcome to all of them. If I can move to the next slide. Yes, so Agile at Crossroads. I think over the past year, a lot of our work at Made by Many has focused on a Gen Z audience, and we've got some amazing Gen Zers as part of our teams. So when we thought about Agile and its future, we couldn't help but look at Agile from the lens of young people and a younger generation. And I think as a result, when we thought about the question, we kind of rephrased it in that classic way, to think more broadly about how we can attract the brightest and best people to our industry, and kind of excite them and motivate them about product in the same way that I think we were. And I think there's a kind of, I have a belief that over the last 10 years, we've been really lucky as an industry, because we've been one of the most exciting places for young people to be and to work. But I just don't think that's going to be the case in the next 10 years. So I think as product people, we've got a vital role to play in attracting the best and most creative young people, so that we can kind of continue to design and build the best products. So I'm going to start with the beginning of my career in 2008. And it was, I was working on a program called Fire Control. And I mean, there are red flags already by the capitalization decisions they've made for that name. And I think the Telegraph ran a story with the headline at the time saying, terrible name, terrible mistake. And the whole thing was a disaster. So Fire Control was broadly about consolidating control rooms used to handle emergency calls into kind of regional control centres, and it involved new facilities, big technology upgrades. But the reason why, or one of the reasons why it failed, is because by the time they came to implement the technology, it was already obsolete. And that was my first experience of the world of work. And I was kind of witnessing this. I was there in these planning cycles for a whole year, never saw anything delivered, and it just felt so bureaucratic and so wasteful, and it just didn't appeal to me. And I thought, I'm going to go and do something else. This isn't how I want to spend the next 60 years. But luckily, I did stay. And the next project that I worked on was an Agile project. And I can't really believe this now, but I was so passionate about it that I used to talk in the pub with my friends about it, which was unbelievable. I can't believe I did that. But I think it made work fun. And the reason why it made work fun is because, to me, as a kind of 23-year-old, it felt genuinely exciting that there was a way to deliver technology that focused on users, chunks of value, approaching problems actually in a way that big consultancies at the time and big IT didn't do. And it felt kind of subversive. It felt like it was fighting against some of the reasons why there were big wastes in projects. And less time in meetings, endless planning meetings, risk meetings, to deliver something in a future where I knew I wasn't going to be there when it was delivered. And I think, it really motivated me. I felt really genuinely passionate about product and about the world of work. I think partly because you could speak to real people and you could do things quickly and you could put things in people's hands really quickly. And that was just so, it's easy for us to forget now because we worked in product for so long, but that was so different to the world we lived in before. And it meant we made better projects, and it meant my mum understood what I did because I could show her something on a phone, and that really helped me, finally. But I don't think that lasted. It didn't last for me. And it feels like, again, in my experience at least, there's been a shift. And I've been thinking about it this week and weeks past. And it feels like the shift is because Agile used to, for me, be about changing people's mindset. And it was about the way you felt about delivery and the way you kind of helped communicate things to people. And it was about moving people away from their kind of default muscle memory of delivering things in a waterfall way. And now, again, to me, my own personal experience, it feels more about process optimization and throughput optimization and picking up a ticket and delivering it. And I'm sure part of that is about me, but it feels like some of the magic has been lost because in the implementation of these processes and the way that they've been embedded over a long-ish period of time. Again, the kind of process to me, things like writing tickets, feels more contractual now, something developers commit to, something they're held to. It's less about a kind of record of a conversation and a team doing things together. As I said, it feels like in this shift, something has been lost. And going back to Gen Zs and the future of product, I don't think we can afford to let that thing get lost and let this happen. Because I think from our work with Gen Zs, they'll see through it and they'll expose it. And they won't ignore it in the way that I think some people have. And then, as an industry, do we need something to fill this space if we agree that there's a space that needs to be filled? And is it something that should be done by an industry, or should it be something that's done by an organization as a competitive advantage to help recruit the best, brightest young people? But it feels like there's a gap there that can be exploited. Okay, so gaps. And again, thinking about things through the lens of a shift from a mindset change to a production line, and what the gaps could be, and what would be particularly relevant to a new generation. And there were two areas that stood out to me. The first, how we get product teams to make ethical and moral decisions. I'm sure is a controversial one. And then the second, Aon delivery, I'm sure is like the thing that everyone is expecting to hear about today. But let's tackle the first. So I think the first thing is that ethical considerations are implied already in the Agile values, but then they're not explicit. So they talk about respect for people, honesty, responsibility, fairness, openness. But you know, they aren't explicit, and Gen Zs in our team don't read things in that way. They read things in a very explicit way. And by requiring the kind of implementer to read a value in that way, I think that doesn't appeal to a younger audience. And try to look for some examples of what would work. And I came across this years ago. It's something called the four-way test. It's from 1932, which is amazing. And I went through this with some Gen Zs in our team, and when I got to number 4, they laughed and said something about us living in a capitalist society, and yeah, they weren't into this. But this isn't the right thing, but a framework to help people make decisions, I think, is really important, particularly to younger generations when they don't know where the boundaries lie, and they don't know when they can challenge and when they can't. And again, this kind of framework feels like it's missing, and it might be something that appealed to a younger audience. Yeah, AI as part of the discovery, development, design process. We've been debating and discussing this a lot at Made by Many because we use AI tools a lot as part of the design, discovery process and the development process. And in a way, I think it helps enforce some of the core values and principles of Agile, because by allowing teams to kind of focus on working software and automating some of the administrative parts of the process, I think that means that they can focus on things of value. But it can also help us speed up feedback loops with users, allow us to kind of sketch and prototype in a much more rapid way, and process insight into something actionable more quickly than before. And we're already seeing that. We can get to those points of kind of learning and magic much quicker than we used to. But for a Gen Z audience who are very new to the world of work, there's loads of kind of implicit action that's happening by these tools that they have no understanding of. And they've lost the link between how we do things, how we synthesize insights, how we sketch with people. That's gone now for them. And it really hit me that I just assumed stupidly that they would understand these things and they would see the links, but they don't. They haven't been through the process. They haven't seen it go wrong. And I think they've really suffered from it. The other thing that we debate a lot around AI and Agile is about whether it should replace human input. And I mean human input in terms of user testing. And obviously, we don't think that you should replace people with artificially created versions of them, but there are points in the process when maybe you could. And it feels like there's value in experimenting there. There are things that you could learn quickly and very cheaply. But who makes the rules around that? Who helps you to understand some of the risks and some of the pitfalls? Because it needs some framework, some sort of belief system to help you do that. Yeah, back to what Gen Zs really care about, and what we found in our research and working with them every day. The first, as I mentioned, is that they hold us and the process to account. They challenge everything all the time, which is just great to see. And they are and will continue to be less willing to kind of accept a version of Agile that's just a poor implementation of values that they hold really close to them and are important to them. So things that we all know: flexibility, autonomy, continuous feedback, purpose-driven work, collaboration, inclusivity, growth, and learning, transparency. They're all the things that Agile can give to a young person. But if you ask them about it, they don't really know what it is and don't really care. It's just the way they work at work. But the values are a good natural fit, and I think we need to listen. I think we need to listen to that, because I think they'll just kind of accept this as the way without seeing the wider context and the reasons behind it, and seeing what happens if you don't deliver in this way. So there is hope and there's risk, but I think we're going to have to reinvent the working world and the methodologies we use to appeal to that generation. But we're kind of starting from a place they can relate to. But I think the bigger question is, are we being radical enough to interest them? Thank you very much.
Sorry, too many microphones. Okay, thanks. So now we're gonna have Roman as our speaker, but we just need to sort out something on the computer. And I'm gonna take advantage and just say thank you to James, because you never see the behind the scene. James is our like he does so much. So if you ever like join us online, he's the one like organizing the live streams. He's the one, as you can see, like sorting out. I think, are you open for business, James, as well? But not now. Like, are you open? Are you looking for new clients? Are you looking for new clients? Yes. So if anyone has an event, come to us. Like, no. Sorry, no. Yeah, we can give you like James contact because he's great. So yeah, just like let's give him a round of applause as well while he's like no pressure. Great. So thank you so much. I'll pass it over to Roman. Thank you. Can I give him that microphone? Thanks.
So yes, thank you. Nice to be here. Nice to share my perspective on today's topic. And as you can see, the title that I've chosen is Agile Methods, Product Teams, and the Missing Piece. And now I need to just use the arrow buttons, I believe. Let's try it. Left, right? No? Up and down? That's great. Thank you. So, yes, and to get started, I thought it might be helpful to briefly reflect on what are some areas of work product teams typically have to attend to, at least to a certain degree, and that allows us then to have a conversation about which of those areas can benefit and have maybe benefited from Agile practices. And so the first area that comes to mind is product delivery, and I probably don't need to explain in too much detail what product delivery is. Essentially doing a good job at providing a product with the right features, the right user experience, so that we have hopefully satisfied users. The second area would be product discovery, discovering those features, discovering the right user experience, and determining what the product should do, what it should look like. And finally, the third element here would be product strategy. So understanding the big picture and understanding what is the product's value proposition and what are the desired business benefits. And distinguishing those three areas of work is loosely based on the work of Marty Kagan. So if you agree with me that that's one way to categorize work for product teams, we can take the next step and say, okay, which of those circles have benefited or can benefit from Agile practices, Agile methods? And I'm thinking about something like the Scrum framework, which is probably the Agile approach I'm most familiar with. So I'd say certainly product delivery, how a product is built and ensuring that a product is built in the right way with the right technologies, the right architecture, by iteratively delivering software, by maybe asking users and customers, or at least selected users and customers and stakeholders for early feedback on prototypes and product increments. But I'd also argue that when applied correctly, at least to a certain extent, Agile methods can help us with product discovery. So if you think about the product backlog in Scrum, the idea has always been that it's emergent, so that you don't start with a complete spec'd out product backlog full of details, but rather a sketchy one where many items are big and coarse-grained, and then you discover the right features and the right detailed functionality through that feedback process that I've already briefly mentioned, through iterative software development by asking users and customers. And I know that's not how Scrum is often applied. Often Scrum and other Agile frameworks are primarily seen as a delivery method, but I think if that's the way you currently use Agile frameworks, Agile methods, I think there's room for improvement. However, where Agile doesn't really help, oh no, I've clicked too often. So where Agile doesn't really help us is product strategy. So the traditional Agile methods don't have anything to say about strategy as far as I know, and I'd even argue that Scrum implicitly assumes that you've sorted out your key strategic decisions. You know who the users and customers are and why they would want to use or pay for the product in the first place. Otherwise, it's virtually impossible to even think about features and pieces of functionality and start articulating them. I mean, how can you write a meaningful user story if you don't know who the users are and why they would want to use the product? And because you can, and I've seen plenty of teams do it, but then you end up with a highly speculative product backlog, and I don't think that's too valuable. So product strategy for me is the missing piece. It's the piece that isn't really addressed by traditional agile practices, and at the same time is important for product people, is important for product teams. You could say that the product strategy here is the foundation for product discovery and helps us make the right discovery decisions, discover the right functionality and user experience design, and also the foundation, the basis for then delivering the right product. So if product strategy is so important, what is it? Well, the answer to that will depend who you ask. I'd like to share my answer with you, and to make this more concrete, I'm showing you a little template I developed many years ago. I think I first published this template in 2011. Since then, many other product vision and strategy tools and templates have appeared. So my recommendation is always use the one that resonates most with you. But this is as good as any, I'd say, and it's I think it's still the most popular template or tool that I've created. So as you can see, it's called the product vision board, and the idea is that you describe the vision at the top. So that's your products, your aspiration that you have with your product, the positive change you want to bring about. And I'm showing you here a sample vision board focused on a diabetes app, and then I'm not sure if you guys at the back can read it, so I'll read it out for you. It says, help people eat healthily. So it's just a brief vision statement, a slogan that tries to be somewhat inspiring and capture the purpose for offering the product. And as you can see, I like to use a vision statement that's not only simple and ambitious, big, but also free of any assumptions about the product idea, or business goals. And then the next thing I like to do is start describing the strategy. And the strategy here in this structure consists of 4 elements: target group, needs, product, and business goals. And generally speaking, I find it really helpful to cover those 4 aspects in any product strategy. So target group are the beneficiaries of the product, the users and customers, the market segment you want to address. And here I'm shooting for people with busy jobs and unhealthy eating habits. They're in a certain age bracket. They have a little bit of disposable income to own or buy a smartwatch or in smart scale, and they live in a region, in this case in the UK. And then I've chosen needs. Here a primary need that should be addressed, and that is reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Of course, you can list more needs, but I find it helpful to focus on the main reason why people would want to use or pay for the product. So what is the main problem that the product should address, or the main benefit it should offer? Or what's the primary job the product should do for the individuals? And then the next section talks about what product it is and what sets the product apart. What are the standout features that the product has and maybe offer a competitive advantage? And in this case, it should be a digital eating coach, and there are 3 standout features, including making individualized eating recommendations and seamlessly integrating with other devices, or with certain devices, leading smartwatches and scales, it says. So those are the aspects of the product that create an incentive for users and customers to choose it over competing products, over alternatives, and that's particularly valuable for commercial revenue-generating products. And finally, the business goals. Here it's a revenue-related goal to generate a certain amount of money within a period, the first 18 months after launch. But it could also be about meeting a profit target. It could be about reducing cost, increasing productivity, or developing the brand, increasing brand equity, or a combination thereof. But again, I think it's super helpful to really think about those aspects and articulate a vision, not only a vision, but the product strategy. It's quite common that the product strategy is, well, every product that exists and has been in existence for a little while has a product strategy, but it's not always clearly formulated. It's not always visible. But once you've written it down, once you've captured it, you can look at it and say, like, well, does that strategy still make sense? Is it still a meaningful framework to guide future decisions, to shape product discovery and help us with product delivery? So strategy is important, I've tried to argue, but it's not really covered and addressed by traditional agile practices. So where are the product teams? What's the role that product teams play when it comes to product strategy? Well, maybe it's helpful to briefly reflect on what is a product team. And I'm not sure what you think, but I guess many people would agree that a product team consists of a product professional, product person, a product manager, possibly in an Agile Scrum-based context, a Scrum product owner, but that might be too divisive, so I'm not going to go there. And then a few other people, a UX designer, architect, programmer, tester, or when you sort of listen to what Teresa Torres says, Teresa will probably say this is the trio, a product manager, and then a developer and a designer. But anyway, my recommendation would be that you want a adequate representation of the key skills that are needed in order to discover and deliver a product. You want those skills represented here in this product team. In talking about discovery and delivery, in an Agile context, this team would then look after the product backlog, stock the initial product backlog, change it, evolve it based on user and customer feedback, and maybe set some outcomes, some tangible outcomes, a product goal, maybe something like acquiring more users or increasing retention or improving conversion for a period of maybe 2 to 3 months. And so it's in a good place, usually, if you staff this team right to carry out the delivery and discovery work. But it's not necessarily well equipped to influence and shape product strategy. And so there are 2 reasons for this. One is a skills issue, and the other one is an empowerment issue. So I'll tackle the skills issue first. So if you agree with me that product strategy is important in order to offer successful products and forms a foundation for product discovery and delivery, then I do think it's valuable for product teams to get involved in strategic product decisions, know about product strategy, and be able to influence those decisions at least. And so in order to do that, I need to press the right button. In order to do that, and so you see the, what I sometimes refer to as a strategy stack or product stack on the right-hand side with product strategy, product roadmap, and product backlog. By the way, if some of you think, oh my God, he's written product roadmap on this, and that's super anti-agile and old school. So when I say product roadmap, I think of an outcome-based, goal-oriented roadmap, not of a traditional feature-based plan. So if that helps. So the first thing would be to make sure that the people on the product team have the right skills and have the right knowledge. And sometimes that means that the person in charge of the product manager, benefits from some form of upskilling. That could be coaching, that could be self-study, or it could be attending some form of training courses. Just to make sure that the individual understands not only what is a product strategy, but how do I create one? How do I maybe identify key risks and assumptions? How do I validate it? What research is necessary to be carried out before I can even start crafting an initial product strategy? And then how do I evolve it across the product life cycle? But that's not enough. So if the team that you see here, the people you see here, have this appropriate product strategy knowledge, they're still lacking important skills. And in order to create an effective strategy for a product, it's often beneficial, certainly for commercial product, to consider things like a marketing strategy and marketing channels, or equally a sales strategy and sales channels. So what I like to recommend is to consider adding key stakeholders to this team, and that would be, for instance, a marketeer, a sales rep, or customer support team member, or somebody from finance. So people whose knowledge and expertise you need to make the right strategic product decisions, and whose support you need in order to progress the product. And as we now have a fairly heterogeneous, diverse team with people from different backgrounds, different business units, maybe not only different perspectives, but also different interests, it can be beneficial to add a coach, a team coach, who helps people to collaborate, helps people to build trust and work together in a trustful and respectful manner, and who facilitates meetings, makes sure that everybody is heard and nobody dominates. And the role might be filled by an experienced Agile coach or Scrum Master or another appropriately qualified employee. And that helps the product manager in workshops, not having to facilitate and at the same time contribute to product decisions, but actually being able to actively shape those decisions. Now, talking about decisions, so the idea that I like to advocate is that this group, this team, makes important decisions together and reaches some form of agreement or consensus. But despite having hopefully a facilitator, a team coach available, that might not always be possible. And in that case, I recommend that the person in charge of the product manager, is empowered to have the final say and make that decision. So that the team isn't caught up in ongoing disputes, but can move on and maybe run an experiment, collect relevant data, and use that then to make maybe a new decision or better decision. And so we have now hopefully a product team with the right skills, and I like to call these bigger teams extended product teams. That's not a term that I've come up with, but you find it in Steve Hines' desktop product management desktop reference. I'm not sure if anybody of you has read the book. It's like a really big book full of helpful information. So Steve Hines distinguishes core team members, product team members, extended product team members, and even associate product team members. And what we can do now is that we say, well, you know, if product strategy is so important, maybe we should then not only educate people and create product teams that can help influence and shape strategic decisions, but maybe we should give these teams the autonomy to own the product strategy or the strategy of their product. And then you'd get full stack empowerment, which means you have a product team that is empowered to determine the product strategy, create the product roadmap, and then translate the roadmap into a helpful product backlog. Now, some of you might say, hold on a second, isn't that the job of the head of product, the chief product officer, or VP of product management, director of product management, depending on the size and structure of the organization? Isn't that individual meant to make those decisions? And that's true. Quite often, a head of product determines the product strategy. But you know, there can be an issue with this approach, and that is, as products grow and become more successful, and as a product portfolio grows and more products are added, it's becoming more and more work for the person, and it can mean that the person becomes overworked and eventually a bottleneck, and important decisions get delayed. And then, not sure how you feel about this, but I've met more than one product team and more than one product manager who wasn't super happy with being given a strategy and having little influence on shaping that strategy, and then having to carry out the discovery. I find if you give teams more empowerment, more autonomy, not only can that speed up the innovation process and help them create more value, it's also motivating. Yeah. However, there is a real problem here. You know, imagine we have all these extended, fully empowered product teams running around, and they're in full charge of their strategies. But maybe some of those products form part of a cohesive portfolio. I don't know, think of something like Microsoft 365, formerly known as Office, with PowerPoint, Word, and Excel. And the Word team decides, well, we want to go left. And the PowerPoint team says, well, we're going right. And hey, we're empowered. We've got the right to do that. Then that might cause a problem for Microsoft in bundling those products the way they've been doing it for many years, and generating the cash they've generated through it for a long time might no longer be possible. So we need to balance the autonomy with a certain form of alignment. And that's where this little framework can help you with. I've called it the strategy stack. It's something I've been working with for a little bit over 1.5 years. The key idea here is to clearly call out and articulate strategies at different levels, and clearly distinguish different strategies, which in my experience isn't always true. You know, sometimes when people talk about product strategy, they actually mean something somewhat different. And sometimes people only talk about strategy, which is like, yes, okay, but again, you know, what strategy are we talking about? So here, the suggestion is to use a business strategy that essentially describes the approach to help the corporation move forward and be successful. And then we have a portfolio strategy that is directed and guided by the business strategy, so it has to fulfill the business strategy. There's a dependency, and that portfolio would say, this is the framework we have in place in order to create value with a group of products. And this portfolio strategy then directs the individual product strategies. So the product teams of, say, Word and PowerPoint, their strategies would have to comply, you could say, with the Microsoft 365 strategy. The 365 strategy would essentially guide and direct the Word and PowerPoint strategies. And then I've added the product roadmap and backlog, and on the right-hand side, a technology strategy and roadmap, which I don't intend to talk much about. And so if if you do that, if you distinguish different strategies at different levels and also create dependencies between them so that higher level strategies direct lower level ones, you can give product teams, extended product teams, ownership of the strategy of their product. And you division, it can be useful to have a separate portfolio. That role can be covered by the head of product together with a portfolio team. And then the CEO together with the executives would take care of the business strategy. And just for completeness sake, on the right-hand side, we have the CTO with senior architects ensuring that there is an appropriate technology strategy available. And so that gives you then, in my mind, the right mix, the right balance between autonomous, fully empowered, extended product teams and the sufficient alignment so that everybody moves forward and there's a coordinated progression rather than different product teams running off in different directions. So, to summarize, for me, agile practices are still relevant for today's product teams. They certainly can help teams with delivery and discovery. And personally, for me, I look at agile practices such as, be they more technical nature as continuous integration or test-driven development, or be they more sort of a product management nature, you could say, like using an emergent, evolving product backlog as kind of standard practices these days. That most of the teams I work with practice to some extent at least. But as I tried to explain, the gap that I see is the strategy part. And if you want to innovate more quickly, then I think it can be helpful to build those extended product teams and empower them to take care of strategic product decisions, and then balance that with a portfolio strategy that offers sufficient alignment and direction. And I think that's it. So thank you very much. There's more information about what I had to say available on my website, and I'm looking forward to your questions now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So we're going to take a 15 minutes break. So then you can enjoy, I don't know if there's any pizza left, but surely I think there are more drinks. And then we're going to come back for our Q&A. Soon we're going to be showing again the QR code with Slido if you don't have it. And please add your questions there. But for now, enjoy the drinks and the nice weather as well. And then come back at 8 o'clock. Thank you. Hello. Oh. So we can start our Q&A session if you wanna come closer, and then yeah, we can go back to our drinks again. Pizzas are gone, by the way. Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah, it's really, really happy. Just now to sit down. Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think we could do like a few of them, and then. No, no, it's here. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, guys. We can start, so then we can go back to the drinks again. You can sit down. Be silent. You're gonna have your own mic as well. You can take a seat. And then, yes, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna try to call them. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. We are starting the Q&A. Hi, guys. Sorry, I'm sorry to be that guy. I'm gonna take a seat now. We're gonna start the Q&A. Thanks. Thanks. Hi. Thank you so much. And then you can go back. Come back. Yeah. Hi. Sorry, guys. Ooh, thank you so much. So we got Roman, Tim, and Tom. I don't know, it sounds pretty nice together, Tim and Tom. Yeah. Do they make this joke a lot at work? Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry to be one of those.
Everyone in our company is called Tim or Tom.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
There are
Is
about
this
5
how,
Toms.
is this
to
how
the,
you hire people?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay. Good names. Yeah, fine. Great. So can you hear me fine? Yes. Can you hear me on the back? Or do I need to? Oh, okay. Now it's louder. No, no, but I could hear myself like, now I can hear me louder. Cool. So I don't know if you have started. So first of all, you can scan the QR code, keep adding questions, keep voting for questions, and then I'm gonna read them out. I don't know if you read them, but I'm gonna go.
No, I
through.
want it to be a surprise.
Yes.
Yeah, surprise.
Cool. I'm gonna start with the first one. And yeah, some of them are gonna be addressed to everyone. Some of them may be addressed to like some of you, but yeah. What are the main objections to Agile that you have been hearing recently? There seem to be strong pushback. Is it due to a changing working frameworks, maybe? And like, it's open to everyone. I think. Do you have a microphone as well, Rob? Yeah. Don't know. You guys can start like anytime.
I think it's about the evolution of, again, as I said, from a mindset shift to something that feels more like a process, and something that I think when people enter the workplace, they take for granted as just the way that everyone works, and that they're challenging, rightly so. But yeah, I think it's just part of its life cycle, that it's been there for a while. It's not changed a lot, but the world around it has. And actually the way a lot of people working has changed as well, I think. We work in a way that we would describe as agile, but it's so much more than that. There's so much more sort of depth to it. And I think that might be why there's some resistance to agile as a concept, because I think people have moved on a little bit.
Roman, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think there's. I'd agree with that, but I think also that in some cases, Agile was or the benefits that were promised from practicing Agile, going Agile, didn't really match the results. And I mean, sometimes Agile simply was oversold, and sometimes it was misunderstood and misapplied. So for me, it's a combination of reasons. And as you rightly said, the core Agile ideas haven't really changed significantly. Having said that, those ideas aren't necessarily Agile ideas. If I think about things like, you mentioned collaboration, sustainable pace, or working at a pace that is not detrimental to a team's health, mental and physical health. Things like quickly delivering value. I mean, those are all good ideas that Agile has offers, and in a way, Agile frameworks implement. But, I mean, most of those existed before those frameworks and methods were invented. So, and then the Agile space in terms of the consulting and training services that were offered, that was growing so rapidly for many years, and maybe that also sort of diluted the message a little bit, simply because people started offering coaching and training services without maybe the necessary in-depth knowledge and the necessary experience. So I think it's maybe a number of factors, but what I tend to say to people is, what's the alternative? Is the alternative going back to waterfall, to a traditional sequential way of working for digital products? Really? Seriously? I mean, that can't be true. So, I don't really see, if Agile is dead, what's then? So I'm not suggesting we shouldn't try and innovate. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't experiment and shouldn't look for better ways of doing things. But again, things like teamwork, collaboration, motivated teams and individuals, getting stuff done quickly, focusing on value creation. I mean, for me, that's as relevant today as it was in the mid-90s.
It was actually one of the questions as well. So, like, is there still space for waterfall in the digital product space? I guess you answered, but I don't know if you answered already. I don't know if you want to add anything else, but it's pretty.
I don't know. I think we sometimes do projects where you have physical infrastructure and digital products have to be developed at the same time. And I think trying to apply Agile principles in certain scenarios just doesn't work. So there's definitely room there. I think that a lot of people default back to a kind of muscle memory of the need to plan for certainty that doesn't really exist. So I think there are real dangers of using waterfall for digital product development. Just on your point, I think the best digital teams that I've come across in the last few years don't really think about Agile very much. They're just trying to deliver value and build the best products. They're not thinking about Agile. They're thinking about how to improve the way they're working in their context. Yeah.
Can I just chip in? I think I think we play pretty fast and loose with Agile, and the principles are great. And there's definitely better than what we did before, but I kind of think one of the things that can go wrong with it is when people get overly concerned with all of the rules, and it becomes a bit like Dungeons and Dragons for making products, and that feels like just a replacement for all things it was trying to get us away from. For me, it felt like a liberation theology and a liberation philosophy for doing stuff, and like Tom said, it suddenly made work and making stuff really exciting. So, I think maybe Agile's done its job. We can never remove it. It's like it's imprinted itself on the way we're all going to do stuff forever. But it doesn't mean, and it shouldn't mean, that it can't change and evolve as everything else is changing and evolving.
Yeah, it's about the flexibility, right? And it's within the name as well, Agile, so it's not like...
Yeah, exactly. We should call it rigid.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like a name and surname. When Agile is viewed as a status quo rather than a positive change, how can we re-engage stakeholders and teams? Should we consider something different as well? Like, I think like you all work with other companies as well, so how do you approach them in the ways of working? Yeah, like whoever wants to go first, like please.
Well, I stopped talking about Agile many years ago, and for me it's less about how the approach is framed and the brand, but more about finding ways that are useful, that are beneficial, that help us create valuable products. And so maybe that's the approach that you could try, that you stop talking about Agile and you emphasize teamwork and effective collaboration, fast decision making, that you emphasize creating value quickly, enabling teams to innovate. And then specific Agile practices, they just happen to be used because, well, they're useful. So
I think the conversations that we've had with our clients has changed quite dramatically over the last 3 years. There used to be a lot of it used to be about certainty and the lack of certainty and how we manage a project without it. And we talk a lot more about ways of working. I think everyone is just much more knowledgeable now than they were. And it becomes a lot more about the outcomes we're trying to drive and how we work with their teams and how we find the users we need to test things with. And it's a much more mature conversation now. So I think it's a really positive thing.
Nice. Going back to to the Agile framework and all the tools we get. What do you think about PRDs, design sprints, and other Agile product innovation processes? Do you think they are too heavy, given the speed of development and so on? And I had to be honest, I do like a good PRD, to be honest, because at least it's guys, you can go there and check that. Let's answer the question. Let's go through it together. So I do like a good one, but yeah.
Yeah, we use them as well. We use them as at the start of projects, and they're really good for. All of these things have amazing frameworks that you can use. I think the risk is you can't just read Sprint and then apply it to anything, and check the book every time something goes wrong, because it's just not going to work. I think it's kind of understanding and testing and learning what works for your team. But yeah, these things they're all great. There's useful things. There's so many useful techniques and tools out there, and we find that when we do them with our clients, it forms a kind of bond between the teams that means that we deliver better things. Yeah.
Yeah, so I also think you got to decide what works best for you. If a requirement specification is appropriate, that's great. There's a correlation I find between the age of a product and the amount of innovation and change present and the applicability of a PRD. So the less uncertainty there is and the less innovation there is, the more you can really discover the right features up front and describe them in a fair amount of detail. And the more likely it is that that description will be correct and will stay stable. However, if you don't quite know what needs to be done, then you need to be in a position where you can experiment, where you can learn fast. And then working with a traditional heavyweight PRD can be counterproductive, because you spec out, not only do you possibly waste effort, but you spec out functionality that may not be needed in the way it's described. But somebody says, well, it's stated in this document, therefore it must be implemented, right? So if you build a brand new product, or if you just launched a product and you still need to adapt it to achieve product market fit, then I'd be hesitant recommending working with a more heavyweight approach, and I'd really I'd recommend using an emergent product backlog instead. And maybe just to put that a little bit more into context, a framework like Scrum, no matter if you like or dislike Scrum, was intended to be used to work on complex products. So these are changing products. These are products that are innovative, where, again, we don't quite know what needs to be done and how we do it.
Did you want to add anything else, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of removed some of the parts of a PRD into a project canvas that I'm sure everyone uses. But again, it's about the conversation that happens with a business owner or key stakeholder about what measures for success we're talking about, what risks are, and all those sort of things. And it's about the discussion in the room and a record of it rather than the document itself.
Yeah, makes sense. This is for Roman, but then I'll open up to everyone. A technology roadmap and a product roadmap. How can the two separate roadmaps be good? And whoever asked the question says, I only ever seen this creating problems with the prioritization.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask again, just for my purpose, I didn't quite catch it. 2 types of roadmaps. What type of roadmaps?
Yeah, a technology roadmap and a product roadmap. I
Oh,
think they're
cool.
referring to the last slide when you see like
cool.
business roadmap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Sorry, lots of great questions. Thank you for asking those questions. So the way I like to describe a product roadmap is that it states the specific outcomes or benefits a product should offer. And in the digital space, I find often 12 months is a good time frame to look at. Sometimes that's a little bit too long of a time frame, too long a period, and sometimes you need to look a little bit further, but often 12 months is a good time frame. And so I'd really be looking for specific outcomes around things like we want to increase engagement, we want to improve retention, I think I mentioned during my talk, or we want to reduce cost, or we want to start monetizing the product. Those would be sample outcomes I'd be looking for. Whereas a technology roadmap essentially says, this is how we intend to implement a technology strategy. And here are some specific milestones and some specific technology-related outcomes we want to achieve. And a technology roadmap may influence a number of different roadmaps, possibly across different portfolios, just really depending on the size of the company, the size of the portfolios, and the number of portfolios that you have. So as we've said before, what you do and how you do things will very much depend on your context. There is no one right way. You can only, you can use a framework like the strategy stack if you want to for inspiration, or to check, is that useful for me? Is that how we're doing things? If we're not doing things, well, maybe it's because it's not applicable, or maybe it's because, well, we could benefit from improving things. So if you're a small business, then you may not need a technology roadmap, but if you're a bigger established enterprise, you probably do want a technology roadmap, generally speaking. So that'd be my recommendation. But of course, the final thing I should say about this is that if you have multiple roadmaps, you need to keep them in sync. So you need to make sure that the people who leads the development and who are in charge of updating those plans, that they talk to each other.
Do you want to add anything else?
No, that was a very good answer.
We are getting many questions as well.
Nothing to add.
So I got like so many questions. So this person is in a team who is looking to move from a feature-based to an outcome-based roadmap. How would you recommend they approach this one with the business and the stakeholders as well? I assume you had this conversation a lot in your careers. So yeah, any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I would want to know who is driving the use of a feature-based roadmap and what they're trying to achieve with it, what kind of information they're trying to communicate. And then, as a start, linking those features to outcomes and asking some questions. I think the problem some people find with outcome-based roadmaps is they can feel quite vague, and they're quite difficult to communicate to stakeholders that are used to just delivery, and they're thinking about shareholder value and things like that. So I think linking those things together and making sure that people in the organization get used to seeing that a feature as achieving a certain outcome would help to flip that. But it's really important that the outcomes are very descriptive about why it's important to the business and the users.
Anything you want to add, Roland?
Not much. I think that was a great answer. What I sometimes recommend, if you have stakeholders that are very attached to traditional feature-based planning, is to start with a single outcome. So, not being overly ambitious and saying, we're going to do now an amazing new outcome-based roadmap for the next 12 months, but really say, like, okay, what might be a good benefit that we'd like to achieve with our product in the next 2 to 3 months? And make sure that you clearly describe that, preferably together with the stakeholders and maybe development team members, so that everybody has a shared understanding and there's at least a certain level of buy-in. And then use that outcome to focus your discovery and delivery work, and then look back after 2 to 3 months and ask yourself, how did it go? And if it was successful, well, that might be then a good foundation for taking the next step and building an outcome-based roadmap, again, preferably together with key stakeholders. So you do some trust building.
Thank you. This is more around Gen Z. So what does fairness mean when working with Gen Z? And how can we ensure the benefits for everyone when it's not always possible? I think, working with different generations as well and different ways of working and so on.
That's almost a philosophical question about fairness. It's really, really hard. I mean, I think certainly in our company with the amazing Gen Zs that we have working with us, it comes down to the same kind of things that I think everyone wants to have, which is, you know, transparency, clarity, good communication, all those sorts of things. You know, Gen Zs are not a different species. They are very similar to us. They're just a bit younger. And in my experience, they are really badly maligned by older people. I hear very senior business people saying things like they're lazy, they're disloyal, they are unfocused, all those sort of things. None of those things I don't think are true. I think they work really hard, and you know, it's like with anyone else in your team, you've got to find what is the thing that they want to achieve that you can help them with, and how can you help them to be the best that they are at their job. I mean, that's what running any team is basically about, isn't it? And I genuinely don't think they are different to that, and I don't think they're even asking to be treated differently. I think they imagine what it's like being born into a world where you know that you have to deal with runaway environmental collapse for the rest of your life, and you're never going to be as like wealthy as anyone else in society. It's like, it's pretty bad what they have to put up with, and so I think just treat them with an open mind and try and be fair to them, and in my experience they will be fair to you. Obviously not everyone is fair to you in any generation, so be prepared for that. But you know, on the whole, I think they're not that different. They just come from a different time and they have a different framing around the way they see the world. So you just have to get your head around that.
Yeah, fairness is odd because there's so many things fairness could be, but if we think about it as opportunity and being given the opportunity to do certain things, we found that the Gen Zs in our team are the best people in the team with really, really senior sort of board members on S&P 500 companies, because they're really direct and they speak for people, and we've got a few clients that they really, really value the opinion, and I think that by giving them the opportunity to do that and not be afraid to do it, that's fairness in their eyes.
They're a secret weapon. Like, you take them into like really senior boardrooms and they just speak their mind and no one else does it, and for some reason they have kind of like some permission to do that, so it is like a superpower that really can work for you.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, Roman, as well?
No.
All right, so I had to be honest, I don't really know this question, but I'm going to ask you so then I can learn. Is Shape Up better than Agile? I don't know what Shape Up is. Have you heard about it?
Sounds like a fitness program to me. Agile sounds like yoga.
Can we ask the person who asked the question what Shape Up is?
If not, we can skip it. But
Do you want me to? I'll move the mic over. I'll be compare. It has to be in like 20 seconds though. Do you reckon you can do it?
thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Shape Up's newer than Agile, 6-week sprints, continuous discovery, continuous delivery. Have you implemented it anywhere? Have you talked about it? Sounds like you haven't. Does anyone else here know about it? Am I the only one? Okay, thank God. Is it better than Agile? Can we get hands from the people who use it or know about it?
Is that a vote? Is that a vote
No.
situation?
I mean, I'd like to sort of repeat the recommendation to use whichever approach works best in your environment. And I think personally that the wish that I have for the product management space and equally for the Agile space, that we move away from this idea there's the one right way or the best way. There never is. You know, there never is. We can observe, I mean, what I can do, what I do in my work, what I notice is that I can observe patterns and I can observe certain things that can work, but you always have to contextualize them. And maybe just very briefly, without wanting to go off on a tangent, when you read Teresa Torres' book on continuous discovery habits, a lot of Agile ideas in there, from using story maps to doing things on a continued basis, to doing it on an iterative basis, to teamwork, to frequent feedback and conversations with customers and users. So, pick and choose and find the approach that, as I said, works for you, and be values and principle based. Don't be tools based. That'd be my recommendation.
6-week sprints sound like a long one. Yeah. Where the whole world could change in 6 weeks. But I'm sure there's a place for it.
I think it would be hard for us to work in 6-week sprints because we need that. I don't know anything about Shape Up. I'll tell you what, I'll read about Shape Up first and then...
We're going to shape up.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question. I was hoping to learn about it. I was like,
right.
oh, am I the only one? Thank you so much, by the way, for explaining as well. Now, we don't really have much time, but I have 2 questions I want to ask you. One, what are the skills? What one skill that you saw in successful product managers, and what's the recommendation you want to give to someone who wants to move job or wants to get into product? And then I have another question as well, which is more philosophical, maybe what you were saying, which someone possibly I really like.
So I think there are 2 for me, is pragmatism and communication. I think that you have to be seen as someone that can get things done in an organization, and you have to be seen by the team as someone who can do things in the right way. So it's a really hard job, but I think if you're not pragmatic about things and you can't communicate to the whole organization about what you're doing and why, then they're really, really vital.
Team?
I think courage, just being brave, and I think I think getting things done is definitely part of the job. So if you can be brave and get things done, you're on to something.
So the quality that I'd like to focus on is empathy. So being able to empathize with users and customers, even if you don't necessarily like their feedback or don't agree with their feedback or find the individuals who interact with particularly likable, and equally empathy with stakeholders and development team members. And empathy doesn't mean that we have to love the person or like the person or have to agree with the person. It means that we take an open, genuine interest in the other person and try and understand their underlying needs, and be willing to look at things from their perspective. And for me, that's a really important quality. And not only does it help product people succeed in their job, I personally feel that if I make an effort to cultivate my ability to empathize, it also makes me a happier, more contented person. So it's like 2 birds, 1 stone, as they say.
Thank you.
Wish I said that.
So Tom mentioned the magic having been lost in recent years as well. So it would be great to hear a few examples, maybe one example each, of where it did feel magic, when working, I don't know, on a project, on a new product, and it'd be nice to hear your experience.
I kind of feel it all the time when I see people using things that we've designed and built. But I did an amazing project years ago for Transport for London, where we would go out as a kind of tactical team and speak to station staff and solve a direct problem that they had that day with technology or another process. And being that really fast feedback loop of being able to give them something in 2 or 3 weeks that changed their working life was, that was a real magic moment for me.
Thank you. Next.
I think for me, Agile, in maybe, I don't know, the mid-2000s when we were really experimenting with it, felt a bit like joining the rebels against the empire. And I remember being asked by a client to go and explain Agile to a really elderly CTO at the Daily Telegraph. And at the end of that, halfway through that meeting, he basically told us to shut up, never mention Agile again, and literally banished us from the building. And then 2 weeks later, he could put on special projects and left. And that felt really good.
Nice. Roman?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what's already been said. For me, it was a similar story that when I came across Agile approaches, it felt very liberating. It felt like, wow, this is an exciting new way of doing things faster, of focusing on teamwork and having a certain level of autonomy and empowerment. And generally, for me, that's when I don't know if magic is the right word, but where I experienced some form of magic when when I see a team, a group of people working together really well and getting shit done. And again, for me, that's ultimately what Agile is about.
Great, thank you so much. Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much. I think we are done with the questions as well. Like so many questions. I was like getting overwhelmed a little bit. But thank you so much for joining, for choosing us over the pub as well and the outside. But this location is beautiful, so yeah. And I'm told as well we can stay here a bit longer as well, like 9:30. So please help yourself. I just want to say thanks again to Roman, Tim, and Tom, and for Made by Many to hosting us as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thank you.
And I'll see you next month in July for another event. Thanks.